Originals, and this is what even are AAA games anymore? Our channel Bricky. Okay, this is really a good topic all around because before it was like a AA game is like something that doesn't have that much of budget. It's doing fine, something like that. I don't know, like Outer Worlds was a AA game, right? AAA games are like this heavy budget, big games, right? Like Call of Duties and Assassin's Creeds and things like that. That has like 500, 600 developer crew and things like that. Usually it's like number like that, like hundreds and hundreds of crew of people, developers who make games. Only exception was I think Bethesda Game Studio games, because up until Fallout 4 they had like double-digit developers somehow, and they were working with that. Still was a AAA game with big budget. But yeah, so nowadays it's like since the gaming industry has grew so much, right? Certain games are really like multiplayer type of game, esport type of games are really top, right? Overwatch and things like that are really top of the top. There's also something like Rockstar games, basically GTA, which is also multiplayer because people play GTA online a lot, but also GTA is really big budget game. So it's really confusing to see what qualifies as AAA, what not. But yeah, let's watch it. This video by Bricky. Obviously Bricky is great at topic like this, analysis and low down summary type of videos. So let's watch it.
Before we get started on this video, this episode of Bricky Brings You Content is brought to you by my sponsor, Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering a box of all kinds of various items from top shelf and under the radar brands. It's completely free to join, and every month they introduce their members to cool different products, things like outdoor gear, barware, kitchen goods, clothing, and even more. All of this entirely based on a preference quiz that you fill out when signing up. The lineup changes every month, but each box of awesome has around $70 in value, but you only pay a fraction of the price. In fact, 90% of the products in Bespoke Post come from small brands, many of which are right here in the US. And what should be made clear is that while you can sign up and take the quiz, you don't owe any money until you decide to pick a box. You only pay for what you want. And before it gets shipped to you, you can even decide if you want to keep it, swap it for a different box, or skip the month entirely for absolutely no charge. Throughout this ad, you've seen me unboxing 3 of the boxes I chose. The 3 I specifically went with were the Concentrate, Explore, and Wabi Sabi boxes. Concentrate because I have a crippling caffeine addiction and anything new coffee sounds lovely to me. Explore because despite the fact that I am in busy suburban SoCal, we do have plenty of different fun trails and hiking areas you can go through. And Wabi Sabi because sushi is my favorite food of all time. That is one of the more Californian things I can say, but hey, I know who I am. I will certainly be using the things I got from these 3 boxes. And if you would like to get your first ever box of awesome, and not only that, but get it for 20% off, click the link in the description and enter code Bricky20 at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/Bricky20. Thanks again to Bespoke Post for sponsoring this video. Head on over to the link in the description to get 20% off your first box with code Bricky20. Hello everybody, my name is Bricky. Currently, well, feeling a little whelmed. Not overwhelmed or underwhelmed, but just whelmed. I stand here in front of the green screen I painted on my closet wall, thinking to myself, this is certainly one of the days of all time. $70. $70. It's a lot of money. It's also like not a lot of money. I recall
seriously. Okay, first of all, in here I buy things on rupees. So sometimes I don't do conversion much, right? It is what it is, and I just buy it, but never really process it. So I never knew when they cross over to $70 because it was $60 for a long time, right? Because I'm pretty sure, like even, I don't know, 10 years ago, it was like, $60. I knew it because, at the time I was, I don't know if they basically set it in dollar around that time here. I don't know when they changed it to rupees to match the currency here. But yeah, I knew they were $60. I don't know when they cross over to $70. Only time I realized that their latest game from Bethesda that messed up completely, right? The vampire type of game. I don't even remember the name. That was a $70 game and it just sucked completely and people just basically went crazy.
A conversation I had with a friend on the discussion of the $100 bill and how it is simultaneously a lot of money and almost no money. $100 is a decent amount of groceries, a nice dinner date for you and someone special, refilling a lot of cleaning supplies around the house, or even a lot of essential bits of clothing like simple name brand underwear, socks, t-shirts. You can get a lot for $100, but it's also not even a month's worth of electricity, a fraction of rent, and just barely covering a full tank of gas in 2023. And over the past 5 years, even the $100 that meant a lot feels like it's meaning less and less with rising.
Yeah, I guess his comparison to energy is where it falls off. Like, because energy is costly nowadays, obviously. Gas, electricity, this is all energy. Energy is going to cost a lot nowadays. That's the thing. But yeah, $100 is a lot, right? Even in US, I guess $100 is a lot. I guess it depends on how you see things, right? Like in that point of view, like what is even $1,000? Like you can't even get a decent car. You can't get even a, and yeah, so it depends on point of view. But yeah, everyday thing, $100 is a lot. And I guess his point is like $70, does it even matter for game? But yeah, it kind of does, because it's a video game in the end. You play it for less than a month or something, depending on the game.
Rising inflation, poor wages, and a housing market that is at best infuriating and at worst unfixable. Along with the price of basically everything else, video games are also increasing in cost, going from the $60 they have been for over a decade to $70 for the quote.
Yeah, by the way, it's not even $70, is it? Because let's see from the console perspective, right? Not the PC perspective, but console perspective. People who buy consoles, that console is going to stay there for 6-7 years. And during this 7 years, let's say if somebody's just game crazy, they'll buy a lot of game. But there are people who just buy like 2-3 games a year at best. So if you just divide, just multiply that for 7 years and then divide it, you also have to take into account the cost of the console itself. So it's not just $70. You also bought console for that, and as soon as the next generation comes for a year or so, a new game will support the older one, and then older one is just obsolete. So you also have to take that into account.
AAA game. This recent price jump has been made extremely known to us, as its reveal was superset between the release of a game that couldn't be played and a game that nobody wanted to
play. These two games are the only one that did $70.
What should a $70 game really be? Or better yet, what is a AAA game that is worth such a price point? Because throughout my entire life, games have been priced at either $50 or $60. From as young as I can remember playing video games, they were like $50. But a quick Google search says that roughly around 2006, they started retailing for $60. This would have made me 11 years old. Or in Call of Duty release timeframe scale, a year before COD 4. That's how I remember video game years, is COD release dates. It's all off the top of my head right now. Ghosts 2013, Modern Warfare 2 2009, Black Ops 2 2012. It's all there. So that means we haven't.
All right, yeah. That was the case for me for quite a while as well. But after the Ghosts, even the Ghost I didn't play. Ghost was the point where I stopped with Call of Duty at all, right? Completely. I'm pretty sure it was a Ghost, yeah. Because I think game before Ghost was, or was it Ghost? I don't know. I don't remember that stopping at Ghost, because the game was becoming too futuristic and crap. I'm like, this is not why I play Call of Duty. Otherwise, I remember Call of Duty 2. That was my first Call of Duty game. I don't know if I played first or not. I played it 2. I played, World at War, and I'm missing something. No, then the Modern Warfare series, right? I don't know. I think Ghost is where I'm like, I'm done. I'm not playing it. But yeah, as far as it's like that and Need for Speed, I think was the thing that I used to remember years that way. If I remember past, like what time was that? Was it the time for this Call of Duty came? Was it the time on this Need for Speed came? I used to remember things like that.
Had a general price increase for about 17 years. It's not to say there haven't been ways to get more money out of games, of course. Deluxe editions, promising in-game items going for up to $100 or more, DLCs, or as they used to say, or call it my day, expansions, and other microtransactions insulated a lot of the $60 purchases, which, hot take, I'm actually surprised the $70.
I think they should call it expansion still, because it's confusing sometimes, right? Or at least it confused me a long time ago. I remember, trying to find DLC and getting confused. Wait a minute, is this an actual expansion type of DLC, or is this some kind of a cosmetic shit? Because it was really confusing. DLC this, DLC that, like what it is. You have to read the entire description just to know.
price tag didn't come sooner. If we look at it from a pure inflation standpoint, $60 in 2006 is almost $90 today. Plus, it's not like the cost of making games has stayed the same. Games are made by people like you and me. And to say that their wages haven't also needed to go up to facilitate a more expensive economy would be generally incorrect. Ironically, when you look at it in relative terms, video games have actually gone down in price over the years.
Yeah, but demand has gone up. Video games, I mean, in 2006, just check out the numbers, how many people bought games and played. Compared to that and then now, it's ridiculous. Numbers have gone up incredibly. Hell, 10 years ago, I remember like PC games wasn't even acknowledged that much, like obviously to the PC Steam people, but AAA games never even cared about. The console major games, never really cared about PC that much. They didn't polish it right. They didn't even consider that. Sometimes even the game's controls are read in Xbox control or something shit like that. Like, what the fuck? And nowadays, even PC games have gone up so much that developers are actually caring about that.
Staying the same cost for a while costing more to make, while not adjusting for inflation, which would make sense why there have been such an absolute abundance in microtransactions and upsells to make up the difference. So our new price point of $70 has been created. And let's be real, none of us can stop it now. The precedent has been set, and every major publisher is just happy that someone else did it first, so they don't appear to be the boogeyman. I will go out and say, I don't mind that the new price of AAA games is $70.
Yeah,
I was astonished it remained $60 for as long as it did. But I will say two things. One, I should not be your base metric. Thanks to the success of this channel, the sponsors I have, streams I do, and lovely community like yourself that shows up and watches these videos and buys merchandise at orchidate.com, I am doing very, very well for myself. I am not the average person. I am not the working class. So my $70 is very different than your $70. And it does me good to constantly remind myself of that. And two, the game has to be worth $70 fucking dollars. Redfall is not worth $70. Jedi Survivor on PC should not be $70. I should not have to pay $70 for a broken game with the hope it'll be fixed later. You don't pay.
All right, I was about to say, like, games kind of are like vanity, and if you can pay $60, $70 is not going to be that stress for you. But then he said about this buggy game, and now it makes sense, like, because if there are people, like I said, who plays just a few games a year, because first of all, they don't even have time because they work and their family and everything, right? So if they play just 2-3 games in a whole year, and they don't have the cash flow like that, like $70 is good enough money. Like, so why waste $70? I need that type of thing. And they set aside for a few games, like, I want to do this because I'm a gamer. And then they buy some like Redfall or whatever he said, like that buggy ass game. Imagine that mentality at the point, like, what the fuck? Did I just waste $70 fucking dollar on this? I mean, do they give you like refund options at that point? They must, right? Wasn't that the case with Fallout 76 as well? People were asking for a refund. Because if that's the case, just refund them. This is a fucked up.
Pay for a car and have the dealers say, yeah, all the tires are popped and it has no windshield, but it'll be fixed at some point. When? In the future. When in the future?
When will then be now? Soon.
Spider.
How soon?
If I can make a blanket statement today, it's this. I don't give a shit if your game is $10, $40, $70. It's a fucking product. I don't sell people half a goddamn shirt. I don't care about your deadlines. Don't sell me something broken. Lick your wounds, post your Cyberpunk delay image, and fix your shit before it comes out. Swallow your pride and speak to whoever ran the PC port for God of War 2018, because that game can run on my fucking Tamagotchi. Of course, I speak to the publishers more than anything. I do not fault the individual devs. I fault the unrealistic deadlines and management of those above them. Your game needs to work. Yeah? Whew. Whew. Management. Yes, management. Next part of the script. They are...
Alright, seriously, the Redfall thing, I also thought about it. I didn't know the name of the game, but I know it's Bethesda game, and obviously Microsoft took it. This did cross my mind, like, Starfield got delayed, right? So the Xbox guy, whoever that is, right? Pete, I don't know what his name is. The Microsoft Xbox guy basically, let them have that delay. Like, fine, you wanna have a delay of a year or something, fine, because it's supposed to launch last year, right? But they delayed it in the first quarter of this year, and then they're like, fuck it, no, third quarter of this, and now it's in September. So they got good enough delay. Now imagine, AAA game developers like Redfall. They're like, okay, can we have a delay because we need to polish it? No. We already gave delay to Starfield. We can't have you delay too. There's too many delays. You have to launch it. Imagine that mentality. Like, obviously Bethesda Game Studio is big, right? But still, like, okay, this is a AAA game. You're taking $70 for this, and you can't even grant us some delay. I'm just imagining that mentality during that time, like, and then that guy, the Microsoft leader guy came out saying this is all my fault. If you read between the lines, that's the feeling you get. Like, he didn't let them have delay, and that shit happened.
Such babies. I am going to leave them in there.
Management that seems to be present in the AAA industry more than most others. Those that are at fault, I refer. Because this whole thing begs another main question. What even is AAA game? Why'd I say that way? What even is AAA game? What is AAA? What even is a AAA game anymore? Not only what it is, but once it's defined, is it even a sustainable concept? Like, the line between AAA game and the rest of the world's products is getting constantly blurred. For many, AAA is a standard of quality. An example of this would have been Blizzard a few years back. Blizzard games were notoriously high quality. Often their ideas weren't the first, but they were something that was really nailed down. It kind of made me have this feeling of like the Apple of video games, where nothing Apple does is particularly brand spanking new and crazy new technology, but they tend to make the things they do make really
quality.
Polished. Overwatch 1 was a great example of this. When it came to the individual aspects of Overwatch, everything felt rather pristine. The UI was smooth and transitioned well. The character designs looked unique, and the animations were crafted in a way that felt as if industry veterans were making them. Graphics too play a part in this. Not photorealistic per se, but its own special feeling and art style. The game was also relatively bug-free. I don't remember encountering any bugs in the launch of Overwatch, and my only real issue was the server capacity, but even then, like, I kind of get it. I still got a ton of games in regardless. We have quality, right? Another thing to be associated with AAA is the size of the games. What are you offering? How much content is there? If we take a trip back and we think about Halo Reach, like, that game was jam-packed for what it had. A fully fledged 7 to 8 hour campaign that can be played normal or co-op, Firefight, a co-op horde game mode, a fully fledged.
I think Witcher 3 is a great example of that, like, content-wise, because I was a content nerd, let's just say. After playing lots of open world RPG, I expected big games. Like, after playing Bethesda games for hundreds of hours, I was expecting more, not Bethesda level more, but more nonetheless. And then I played Witcher 3, I realized how everything's tailor-made, every quest, everything, which was not the case with Cyberpunk. People still defend Cyberpunk, and I get it, but compared to Witcher 3, it's not even close, because lots of quests just feels like fetch type of quest, which is completely opposite of what Witcher 3 was. Witcher 3 felt tailor-made. So from the main missions that was driving you, side quest that is driving you, oh, that's already feel like, holy shit, that's a lot. And on top of that, there were tons of Witcher contract. That's not just like, oh, there's a monster, kill them. No, there's too much theatrical was behind it. It felt like good, every single Witcher contracts. So Witcher 3 is a great example. And now I think of Outer Worlds when I think of AA games, because I played really deep very recently and realized that there is lots of things that could have been more. And then I read the community and realized there was supposed to be more, but they cut it down. There were lots of content in different places. There should have been more. Monarch is the only place that felt big. Everything else just was like, okay, it's fine, but should have been more. And that felt like this is not a AAA game, because they didn't have budget to continue more, right? So AAA game is quality, which is basically bugs are killing it. Obviously the scale and the technology that they use, how big it is, right? Everything needs more money, from the scripting, writing, engine technology, polishing, content, how many voice actors you bring in.
multiplayer with a ton of customization, maps, and game modes. Forge, a massive map customizer that could be a game in itself, and custom games, the hilarious game modes that were played from the maps you made in Forge. This was a massive game. The sheer volume of content to be played is staggering, truly staggering. So we have A, quality, B, size, and finally C, the name. And we can't pretend as if the name isn't a huge part of what makes a game AAA. Like, your studio could be 40 people or 400 people, but if I slap Activision Blizzard on it, Electronic Arts, or Naughty Dog, it's going to be taken as if it's a AAA title. And this extends to people working on it. If you have Troy Baker voicing your lead, that means something. If Laura Bailey or Jennifer Hale are contracted, it assumes you have money to spend. Money smaller companies simply don't have. The industry is all names at the end of the day anyway, right? So those are your 3 ABCs.
I mean, if a AAA company makes a AA game and still promotes this AAA, people take it a AAA, can be AAA, but their budget and development might not necessarily be AAA, but I get it what he's talking about. Name makes people think it's a AAA and can justify $70 in the end, because people will pay it for the name itself, even if the game was small, even the polished and quality for that small content, but not as money spent, I guess.
Of AAA, quality, size, and names, the building blocks of a major AAA release video game. Or are they? Day by day, 1, 2, or even all 3 of these factors are being abandoned. It's not uncommon for a game to be missing some or all of the building blocks,
abandoned,
yet still masquerade itself as AAA.
I don't think size is being abandoned. Everything else I can see what he's talking about. But size, I think all the games that didn't have size in previous time, size increasing, because every developer is, first of all, they're pushing for open world shit. Even if the game wasn't open world in the past, the newer version is going to be somewhat open world, and they'll push it for, more size, because side quest, main quest element of the, RPG open world element, they realize how much people love that, and they're implementing every new game. So I don't think size is going down. I'm going to look at in Elden Ring how big that is, right? I'm pretty sure Starfield, that's Bethesda, of course, is going to be big, but still, that's going to be humongous. Not the 1,000 planet humongous, but still big enough.
Video game. Let's look at Cyberpunk when it came out, right? Size? Absolutely there. Present in all its glory. Name? 100%. CD Projekt Red. Well respected. Quality?
Size is meh.
An absolute failure. A cautionary tale.
City size is there. Content size felt like, last mission came very quickly than I assumed. And when I checked, like, is there any side quest left? Even if I explored most of the places, felt like just few of them left. Didn't feel as big.
On the very concept of pre-ordering a title. It lives in infamy, despite the fact that it's okay now. But I didn't buy Cyberpunk for it to be okay now. Apex Legends. Names? EA and Respawn. I mean, that pulls weight. Quality? Bit iffy on that one. Game constantly breaks, servers have issues often, and I've encountered my fair share of bugs and cheaters. Size? I don't think so. There are a few maps, sure, but for the most part, it's one big game mode and a couple side modes. It lacks a campaign and any co-op mode that its predecessor, Titanfall 2, had both of. Now, Apex is not a $60 game, but they shove microtransactions into you so often. The amount of horrendously expensive events that it hits you with day in and day out, and still having loot boxes in 2023. Good God, even Blizzard abandoned those in Overwatch 2. Their solution isn't much better, but goddamn. And we don't even need to cover Redfall. We don't even need to cover Redfall, all right? All I had going for it was the name Arcane. The rest is an evident failure. In fact, Arcane is a question in itself. Is that considered a AAA studio? It has a AAA publisher behind it now, Bethesda, but a game.
Look, I don't think Arcane was ever AAA. Right, in Bethesda umbrella, how many? I think only Game Studio, Bethesda Game Studio, was AAA. Otherwise, every other studio was like AA, kind of crossing AAA, because Prey and everything wasn't. I don't think that was AAA. Game was great, but I don't think that was AAA pushing.
Like Prey, which is a personal favorite of mine,
feels
extremely AAA, but it doesn't have a big name or big size. It's entirely a product of quality. I mean, League of Legends is the biggest game in the world, and all you do is load onto the game map day in and day out, and you break your computer when Yasuo outplays you under the turrets. So this ABC.
Yeah, Prey was great, but I guess number of dialogues, number of character, actors, you can feel that there's not as much as it would be in AAA game. And even though game was great, concept was great, didn't feel a AAA. So I don't think it was.
Quality, size, and name building blocks we've created are already falling apart. The shooter games of 2010s with the campaign, multiplayer, and co-op mode isn't a good metric to go by anymore. And we can't just use made by X company anymore either. I look back and I see Ghost of Tsushima and Hades, my top two games for that year. One by Sucker Punch Studios and the other by Supergiant Games. Ghost of Tsushima has all the hallmarks of being AAA. The game carries tons of talent, has a grand scale and quality to match. It is a genuine
The way they promoted that felt AAA. Wasn't it AAA?
treat to play and replay. But Sucker Punch Studios is not a group that some of you might even be familiar with. For some of you I'm a 27-year-old man and I'm about to break into this bit. You youngsters out there don't realize Sucker Punch Studios made the infamous games. Super underrated titles back in the Xbox 360 era.
I kind of liked it, but not that much.
That was time.
1 and 2.
See, Sucker Punch carried a lot of weight back then, their name. Hades, though, puts AAA stuff to shame. It hits all three building blocks easily with its quality, length, and name recognition. But Supergiant is a tiny-ass studio. How does one call them AAA at the end of the day? Is it the
Yeah, but it's not a 3D game. It's like top view type of game that doesn't require that much budget. It's not AAA. AAA is mostly budget and how much stuff you put in. Whether it could be scripting, dialogue, right? Maybe it have 100 different actors and characters playing dialogues, but game is not that big. That still is AAA. It's all about budget.
The price point? I would have paid $70 for Hades. The amount of hours I put in that game and the quality of it is insane. But it's made by Supergiant, teeny little studio, and it only costs dollar amounts. I don't remember how much it costs. Skater, put that right there, please. But even so, like indies and
I think like I said, up to the Fallout 4, even Fallout 4 was made by 60, 70 people. Skyrim was definitely made by that. I don't think Bethesda had that many. It's after Fallout 4. I think they expanded 2-3 studios and increased the number. But until Fallout 4, they were like very small studio, but they were still AAA because even with that number, they could have made it work. I mean, the engine is shit, and it makes sense how they were very small number. But in the end, their game were really grew, lots of dialogues, content, and everything. Right? It feels AAA, and it was AAA. So
in general can do stuff better than the big names can. Like Supergiant is a constant reminder that quality is not just budget, but also talent. Individual talent from devs. They're putting out games that run flawlessly and can feel like pieces of art. So many people think that like making a video game, being a dev is just plug and play, like just code it this way. Just formulate it this way. Just balance it this way. And it's like saying, yeah, it's easy to play basketball. Just do what LeBron does. Building a game is a skill, and being a dev means that you are good at that skill, but there are devs that are better at skills than others. Supergiant has accumulated this group of devs.
Yeah, I mean, you have certain way, let's say you know how to code this, but how to use that into making this game that has a certain theme, which type of mechanics to use there, and how to, and also engine, which engine you're working with, what is the strength of that engine or not, right? Way too much detail. It's like you have one type of skill, but you have to, I guess, improvise, let's just say, every second how to mold everything into this kind of thing, right? And there are way too many failures. Sometimes people make something and that doesn't work. They have to scrape all that away and start it again, and there are way too many failures like that too, because it just didn't work, right? When it didn't work with the theme. There's so many, like it's like having a hindsight, like what I want it to be. It's really hard.
That are, while small, really fucking good at their jobs. Owlcat Games. Oh man. Pathfinder and that new Rogue Trader game that I actually got a chance to demo, which was really good. And I think people are going to be really happy with that one. Yeah, please. If you wanted to, you'd be on these titles for genuine years with almost no reasons to put them down. Hell, I'm playing this game right now called Moonbreaker by Unknown Worlds, creators of Subnautica. It's a turn-based multiplayer game where you can control little miniatures that you can paint and fight other opponents and their lists. It's a bit Warhammer Kill Team, a bit XCOM, and a bit Mechanicus, all wrapped into one. Thing is, the voice talent they have is astounding. Over and over, I hear voices I constantly recognize, either from games like League and Overwatch or just, you know, there's Matt Mercer. Moonbreaker is an amazing game, okay? That's probably my subject for my next video, and I'm terrified. The player count right now is not very high, but oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. But going back from there, there's the question again, right? What even is a AAA game anymore? All the things that are synonymous with AAA can either be done as well or better by a smaller company, or games that used to be considered AAA are plummeting and failing at that very job. So I ask again, for the 40th time this video, what even is a AAA game anymore? Google says it's a game with a big budget, made by a name brand publisher. That's not what it used to be, but that's what it's become. Budget. AAA back then meant a type of game, a big studio game with lots of content, great quality, and name brand talent. Now it's a game with lots of...
That is what big budget means. What you gonna do with big budget? Throw it? No, big budget means you have a big studio. You're gonna make a big ass game using the limitation of the engine that are using. Like let's say you're using Unreal Engine. That is right. You put that to the fucking limit because you have money to spend that much technology on it, right? You have a big staff because why would you not if you have money, right? The budget. If you have a lot of budget, you would hire a big staff, make a lot of shit, hire a lot of people like voice actors and things, and just make a big ass game. You could make a 40-hour game, but no, fuck it. I'm gonna make an 80-hour game because I have a big budget, AAA. That is what big budget means. Just big everything.
Of money with a good studio. The entire concept of AAA, of AAA quality has changed. It's in a weird way a house of cards. To be a high-profile game made by a big publisher is to submit yourself to the extreme gamble, because to make that, you need a high budget. And that budget isn't exclusively being used on the game. There's a great video on Casper mattresses made by YouTuber Modern MBA. We'll link in the description.
Oh yeah, you mean... I guess he means the PR of it. I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Nowadays, PR is also a big thing, like advertising game. Sometimes games put more into their advertising than they actually spend in game, which is fucking ridiculous when I hear that. Like, what the hell?
The absolutely astonishing amount of money spent on advertising that direct-to-consumer companies often spend. Often, a lot of the Silicon Valley venture capital people, the tech bro is like the new dollar jock at this point. They find themselves in the video game industry seeing either a quick buck or the next major thing to invest in. But investing in America isn't just about getting a little bit more money back. It's never-ending increases in profits. To be profitable isn't enough. If you had 25% more profits one year, the next has to be 35. Being 15 isn't acceptable, despite the fact that you're still making money over your cost. I know I have some fans in the game industry, and I feel like even in the smaller studios, the amount of higher-ups that just have a ton of money, but no idea what making a game is like is prevalent. The amount of times you are forced under horrible deadlines, terrible working conditions, and God knows what video game company culture, because a whole bunch of dudes from San Francisco with a trust fund their dad gave them is now flushing full your company with capital. And now you gotta do what they say. But that number has to keep going up and up and up. So $60 is one thing. Then you release a sequel every single year. Then you add microtransactions to it, loot boxes, a mobile port. You make deadlines smaller so games come out faster. And when all that fails,
I think it also goes to legal, right? Like some developer or some company should make sure that the legal aspect is really tight. Because creativity, you know, if you have like investor, but the investor has no say into the creativeness. I mean, they can push you for deadline, sure. I mean, since they own it, they can, you know, push you for that. But creative wise, they shouldn't pressure you that much. I get it. You can have some kind of a legal things around that before you even start, right? There are many developers, right? Something like Techland or something, which didn't make sense. They left and, you know, left the people they were paying and went somewhere else, got some other investor, and just having autonomy in that way. So you can have something like that, but yeah, most don't.
You fire hundreds of staff to make up the difference and up the price. All of this is not in pursuit of making really good video games. It's in pursuit of a golden goose. Why would we make Titanfall 3 when we could make a free battle royale game that has ridiculously expensive in-game events every single month and still has loot boxes in 2023? And even if we do make a classic, lovely, single-player story game for $70. It will have a deluxe edition, and it will be broken at launch. You know, I'm not a console war person. I don't much care, but Sony still finds a way to make games that actually feel like they're worth the cost and turn a profit. God of War, both of them,
Japan.
mind you, are exceptions that prove a rule. They're a look into what AAA gaming used to be. No, is supposed to be. In a weird way, I wonder if it's a blessing. If the AAA industry is eating itself alive with unrealistic deadlines, massive CEO bonuses, and poor employee treatment, will that blend the line between indies and major publishers? I don't see high-profile games sitting with overwhelmingly positive on Steam.
It's not a good thing. AAA killing itself is not a good thing. I know where it's going with, but that's not how business work. If AAA constantly kill itself, the people who are with the money, they will not see as their fault, and they will basically pull the plug on it. People will not invest in great, awesome looking game with a AAA budget like massive scale games, as they will not see that as something to do, and those games will get scrapped. It will be either small indie games or some multiplayer games, and people will just stop making games that they want, right? Because the people with money don't care about it. They just say, fuck it, we're not making anything. That's not a good thing. I mean, lots of people like me got into the games because it was bleeding edge of technology. What you experience, like, what the fuck, you can do that as well in gaming? Things like that. Like Cyberpunk with many flaws, now patched. Look at how it looks with the, that path tracing, ray tracing thing. Right? How it looks, look at that. I mean, if people are not pushing for that anymore, the games will not be great. I mean, obviously the indie games that people like, right, for the mechanic of it, for the gameplay wise, that will still be there. But the eye candies, basically, that what the fuck element will go away. That's not a good thing.
Steam, okay? Just one.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
It's Outer Wilds, Signalis, Deep Rock Galactic, Stardew Valley, and so on. Indies, or AA games, whatever you want to call them, are the ones that can be as good, if not better, than anything high profile, and all they lose is the ability for photorealistic graphics, which is no longer a selling point like it used to be. And really, what is—
It kind of is, man. I get it, the Bricky is not. But for lots of people, especially the general public, who wouldn't call themselves the gamers but still buy things, usually they buy because it looks good, right? There are people who plays a game for its mechanics and how it plays, like he said, all the game that he listed, right? And even I can see that, right? I saw Dwarf Fortress and things like that, like, what the fuck, this is so good game, even though it's basically pixels moving around, right? So I can see that, but most people want great eye candy games, because in their mind it's like, this is 2023. Why won't I want something that looks literally realistic world, close to realistic world than anything else? Like, why would I pay money otherwise? That's their mentality.
this price worth to you? You, specifically. $70, $40, $20. What are you even looking to get out of it? Like, for some, it's just hours. $1 per hour of game time, I hear some say. Now, these are often those like me who are so deep in the Destiny grind we forgot what sunlight is. Maybe it's narrative fulfillment, a strong story with good characters, a Witcher-style game, or a Last of Us. Competition, ranked ladders, skill ceiling, Street Fighter, CSGO, or just
I can't believe we just compare Last of Us and Witcher 3 as the same type of game, but okay.
fun, like Mario Kart or Overcooked. The line between it all is being blurred. Prices fluctuate depending on game. Content fluctuates depending on intention. And AAA is really just a game by a big studio with a big marketing budget. What it really means at this point, it's whatever you make of it. I'm surprised the industry has survived this long. I feel like if it wasn't for a multitude of golden geese, many wouldn't have been able to. But too big to fail is a real thing. Bloons Tower Defense taught me that. And for each Redfall that's put out, there's something there to make the money back. I've always wanted to make a video game, you know, but I don't know anything about making a video game. I have ideas, concepts, but that's about it. I can't animate, rig, code, or draw. But I do have two things that almost every other startup doesn't: an audience to advertise to and capital to spend. But often people with capital to spend are those exact same Silicon Valley guys that seem like they have no idea what they're doing. So finding a way to not be one of those guys is a little challenging, and something I constantly worry about if I ever do want to make a video game. I may in the future, maybe. If I ever do fulfill that dream, I probably wouldn't do it with investors. I do it with Kickstarter. Owe nobody money, just have a budget, hire a crew, and do my damnedest. And hopefully I can look back at this video and say to myself, Glad I wasn't like these guys. But to be back on topic, a AAA game is something with budget and profile. And in its own right, it does not mean quality. Quality is found for prices other than $70 and by studios that aren't too big to fail. AAA is what you and I make of it. End of story. The old definition is dead and the new one is not satisfactory. So,
yeah. What is the saying? You live long enough to see yourself, enemy or evil, whatever. I forgot the saying. But the point is, this is the business, right? If something gets too big, stays that for long, business and money aspect will get in and it will ruin the experience. That's capitalism. Capitalism in video game will do this eventually, and it is happening right now. Games blew up in past 10 years. Like, holy shit, it blew up. Before that, AAA games were a thing because people were investing that, wasn't expecting Hollywood type of results. But after that, games became so big, and then a multiplayer online element also became too big, microtransactions and everything, that people who are investing in things, that invest in a larger things like Hollywood and shit, they are investing in games now because they see that as somewhat same thing. Like something like GTA, which makes billions of dollars, same thing in Call of Duty, right? These numbers with a B is like crazy to people, and people are going to invest like that, and these people will be like, I don't give a shit about your game, just push money, but launch the game, I want to see money made here. And once something gets too big, it will happen. And I don't think games are developers are too big to fail. That I don't think that can work in games, and especially the community, because people, if something doesn't work out right, people just basically go crazy, right? And even the somewhat doesn't buy the next game after that. But I don't think that can happen in video games, because video game is not just like one time, just launch it, just that's done and move on. They have to constantly update it. They have to constantly stay with the community. So that's not going to work here. But yeah, AAA in the end is just the budget, right? If you have a big budget, you can do everything big, right? Everything can be quality. You can buy the best of the best developer, hire the best of the best developer, and do the best thing that is the bleeding edge of technology. Great voice actors and things like that. Witcher 3. You can have an open world RPG element which is like big, like Witcher 3, Skyrim, Fallout, or you can have a narrative driven great experience like The Last of Us 1, basically, right? Those are two different in that way. But yeah, narrative driven experience, right? These are the AAA element. Now, there are also people like Bricky, basically, who love small indie games, but because the game can be really fun. Just the fun element of it, like even if it's not 3D but 2D type of game, very small budget, but the element of the games are really good, like Dwarf Fortress and things like that, right? But majority of people want the bleeding edge technology, 3D as realistic possible. The video he just saw, that was a big thing just recently, like holy shit, this looks realistic. Is this real? Somebody did it with camera, but then they show the actual free cam and show like how this is in the engine, Unreal thing. So I don't think people are nowadays is like, okay, we don't care about the eye candy. No, actually people are getting more into eye candy with the better and better engine being released. People expect more. There's a reason why Nvidia removed the GTX name and renamed it RTX, because they know that ray tracing, lighting is everything, and if you have great lighting, it can look completely realistic. And they won't just put everything, everything on the line like that by calling it RTX, because they know people want that and not the other thing. People playing 2D game is very small number compared to how many people, just general public, want to play great looking games. Yeah. But nowadays it's just like people want money, shareholders like, no, launch it now, I don't have another year, that kind of thing. And that means buggy games, screwed up things will eventually get passed out, but it still makes them AAA because spending was that. Right, well, if you like my next video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.